Hi folks, it's Anne-Marie here from the Border People Project. So we've had a few questions about hybrid working and the implications for cross-border workers. So I'm going to try and take you through some of the key areas in the next 5 or 6 minutes. It's only a wee quick tour, but hopefully it'll be helpful. So first of all, to understand where cross-border workers usually pay their tax. So usually those who commute full-time across the border, their employer will run one payroll. As an employee, they will pay their tax through that system, and then the employee will declare their worldwide income then back at home, and they do that on an annual basis. Frequently individuals get assistance with a financial advisor or an accountant for that bit, at least in the first year, to get them set up on the right systems. Now, working from home, it switches then, of course, across the border. So the employee who's based on the other side of the border will run a payroll in the jurisdiction where the employee is resident. And the employee then will pay their tax in the jurisdiction where they live. So they pay it at home. So they don't need to do that declaration, then that annual declaration each year. So that's whenever they work from home on a full-time basis. Now, the hybrid working can complicate things quite a bit. The employer will usually need to run two payrolls, an Irish and a UK payroll, and the employee then will pay tax through both of those payrolls and potentially overpay on tax each month. At the end of the year then, the employee will declare their worldwide income and they will seek any rebates for any overpayments of taxes. Now, this is more complicated, but many people do it, and some employers do offer a loan to their employees each month to help with that overpayment of tax. They know the rebates coming at the end of the year, so they provide a loan to kind of top up their monthly salary. Now, this is a taxable loan, so again, this is something that you need to have a conversation with an accountant to see whether this is worth your while. But this isn't an area that we would give any advice on, and just red flagging it here to let you know about it. Now, there are other issues to consider as well when you're thinking about income tax. Perhaps you're using tax reliefs, particularly on the southern side of the border, because you don't need to overpay your tax. There's issues there that maybe you need a conversation with an accountant. How are you using your pension tax relief? If you're jointly taxed with a partner, if you're relying on any family-related tax credits for incapacitated children, as a single parent or a carer, widowed parent, there's a whole range of tax relief there that could be at risk if your income is suddenly divided between payrolls north and payrolls south. So that is also something to consider. How is your current take-home pay made up? Are you using tax reliefs? Okay, so the other thing to consider then is social insurance. It's not all about tax. The other thing that's deducted regularly from your salary is your social insurance. If you're commuting full-time across the border and your employer has that payroll, as an employee, you'll pay your social insurance at work then. So that's either your PRSI or your national insurance contributions. If you're working from home full-time, your social insurance will be paid then and be linked to the jurisdiction where you're actually resident. Okay. Now, where to pay if it's hybrid working, this gets much more complicated. You should know that social insurance is only ever paid in one jurisdiction at a time. So you need to request, or your employer will request, confirmation from the Department for Social Protection or from HMRC where should you be paying and where should they be assigning through the payroll your contributions. So if the majority of your income is earned at home, the place where you live, or if more than 25% of your duties are carried out there, then home is usually the competent jurisdiction, so the jurisdiction that's responsible for you in a social security setting. Okay, so an A1 certificate will be issued by the HMRC or the DSP to confirm which jurisdiction is competent, and then PRSI or national insurance then is paid then by the employer and by the employee. So in this just quick example, if a person's living in the north, employers based in the south, they work from home in Northern Ireland 3 days a week, an A1 certificate would be issued by the HMRC to confirm that the UK is the competent state, and then that Irish employer will set up a direct payment of national insurance to the HMRC. Now, why is all of this important? Because social insurance is linked to social security and social welfare benefits. So and they're usually paid by the country where you were last insured. And this slide just gives a bit of an example of why it's important. So if you were a cross-border worker, too ill to go to work, and you need to claim illness benefit, you will be able to get illness benefit paid by the jurisdiction where you were last insured. And you can combine social insurance contributions north and south if you have switched jobs and you have a record in each jurisdiction. This is also relevant to maternity benefits, to family benefits, coming to pension time, and to unemployment benefit as well. Now, usually they are linked to the place of last insured employment. The unemployment benefit, if you were made completely unemployed, is actually the place where you live that will pay you, but all of your contributions will be exported back home. So that's why where is competent for you is really, really important. So healthcare is another thing that frequently we don't think about too often. Entitlement to healthcare as a frontier worker is quite an additional little benefit. So somebody living in the north and working in the south, they'll have healthcare in Northern Ireland due to their residence there, and then they can have access to healthcare in the Republic of Ireland due to their employment, but there's a means-tested medical card system there. Now, if you flip that to the other side, then frontier workers who are living in the south and working in the north, if you were to suddenly become a hybrid worker or to consider working from home full-time, your access to healthcare in Northern Ireland is at risk. Your healthcare in the Republic of Ireland under the EU rules and the convention between the UK and Ireland would mean that typically where you're commuting full-time across the border, an Irish medical card could be assigned to you without a means test, which is huge. So you'd have access to healthcare in Northern Ireland and a non-means tested medical card in Ireland. The hybrid working in particular and the working from home puts these at risk. So I would highly advise you to contact your Citizens Information or your Community Advice organisation to take you through the implications of this, and just to double check if in your scenario these are in fact at risk, but frequently people overlook this. Now, other important issues that have come across have come to our attention because of hybrid working and working from home. We have found that people have had problems with their income protection policies. They're found frequently to be unsuitable whenever incomes are split between two payrolls. They frequently only insure the payroll, one of the payroll, and the income earned through that. So you need to be very careful about the policy that you have and just how secure is it now that your pay is being divided between two payrolls. Private medical insurance as well, and those schemes, they have found to be quite tricky as well whenever the employee has found that maybe a whole new scheme is now needed in the jurisdiction where they live, and they maybe have to set up a whole new policy. So existing conditions, for example, maybe wouldn't be covered. Any long-term treatment plans that had been in place are no longer covered. So the private medical insurance, double check the implications of a split payroll, or maybe if you're considering switching and working from home on a full-time basis, the medical insurance is one that catches many people by surprise. Now, another one which has huge implications, and some people have had huge bother with, is the implications on loans and particularly mortgages. Where you have a split payroll, frequently mortgage offers are greatly reduced. So double check with your mortgage broker about any impact if you were to have, for example, a mortgage in principle, and then you go and you find your home, but in the meantime you've started to work from home and there's now a split payroll. At the end of the month you're earning exactly the same when the two incomes come in, but for the mortgage provider that becomes sometimes too tricky and too risky, and they pull the offer. So double check on the implications of mortgage and remortgaging situations. And then there's also issues with redundancy as well. If you find that your contract has been completely switched, for example, to the place where you live rather than the place where your employer is based, there could be implications there on redundancy packages that are within your old contract, for example, and then also with the statutory obligations that the employer might have. Are you starting from day one again with that new contract? So you need to be very careful that maybe years and years with a company isn't wiped out because you're now suddenly working from home. Now, I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of the issues that's coming across our table at the moment. I know I've probably presented more questions than answers, but that's why it's really important to keep in touch with your community advice, your citizens advice organisations, and if you can find them an accountant or a financial advisor that has an understanding of all of these issues. Our Facebook group, please keep sharing the information on the Facebook group, your own experiences. You're helping each other to understand the difficulties that you're encountering, and you're really helping the project and us to understand the issues that you're dealing with and helping us to kind of push those issues back to policymakers. So look, I hope that was useful. Best of luck. All the best.